guys, welcome to LEDA Day 8, and today I thought it would be fun to just do a whole live stream about different study tips, techniques, and advice. I've written a whole bunch of stuff down, but I do have a request for those people who are not watching this live and you're watching this in playback. When you catch me saying a tip, if you could just leave a comment below with the time code, like say, oh, she said a tip at 2 minutes and 48 seconds. I think that'd be really helpful for people who don't want to watch the whole live stream but still want to get the tips. So to those of you who actually do that, thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys are awesome. For those who don't and just want to skip to the tips, check in the comments below. But that's all I want to say before getting into it. I also want to say though, I lied. I also want to say that it's hard to make a really all-encompassing study tip, and there is no one way to study because we're all different. Like personally, I like studying in pajamas and comfy clothes and drinking a thing of tea and like eating some chips. Like that's how I like studying. Whereas I know other people who need to be in formal, like uncomfortable clothes, sitting in a library or in a coffee house. Some people like quiet, some people like music, so we're all different. Hopefully something that I say here will help you improve your studying, but if, you know, listen to your body and this is just what works for me, let me know in the comments what your favorite study tips are, and we'll get into it with the first one. And this one, I learned it right before university and it changed my life. Okay, here's the tip. Read the summaries first. Now, summaries could be, some textbooks have end of chapter summaries, or maybe you got notes, your study notes from a friend, or study notes from someone who's taken the class before you, or your teacher gives you a handout. Read the summary before you read the textbook. What this does is it helps your brain pick up on the information a lot better. So the summary is gonna have like the main bullet points, but you might not understand what they all mean. As you read the actual textbook afterwards, your brain is able to pick up on the most important concepts better. And what it also does, I find, is, you know how when you read a page and then like none of the information, when your brain, you get to the bottom and you say, oh, I read none of it. I find that happens less when I've read the summary more, because my brain knows what to look for, and I also feel less like lost when I've zoned out for a while. So that would be my first tip. Is just like read the summaries first. I'm gonna say it again, read the summaries first. Next tip, something that really revolutionized my studying as well, and I find I'm really lazy, I don't do it often enough, but I really should, because when I do it, it just like my knowledge grows a ton, and that is open book studying. Now there are some people who think that like 6 months before the exam, they should already have everything memorized and they should not be open book anymore. I disagree. Up until maybe like 2 days before the exam, I am open book studying, because here's the thing. If you're doing practice questions, if you're doing a practice exam and you don't know the answer, if all you do is say, I don't know the answer to this question, let me read the solution, all you've learned is the answer to that question. Now, the odds of them asking that exact question again, minimal. But if you take that question and say, okay, let me find it in the text, and you have to skim through the text to find the answer and figure it out, one, your brain is not just learning like how to answer that question because you're skimming all around it, but two, it's also going to make it easier when you have to skim for the solution to other questions, because you've skimmed the text so many times now that you have a general idea of where to find things, and it makes finding answers so much easier. It makes you read the material so many more times. So open book studying is just like super, super helpful, and I love it. I think it's so helpful, and I think you should, I just advocate for it. By the way, feel free in the chat to leave your little comments. What are your best study tips? Let me know and I'll read them out. Right now it's Mr. J says, only me here? Where's the gang at? It's not only you, it's me and you. This is me lecturing you about study tips, techniques, and advice. Winky face. I don't know. The gang will show up, or they won't. Maybe it'll just be like a cute little intimate moment between you and us. You and I. I should learn English one day. Next tip, flashcards. I'm not the biggest fan of flashcards, but if I want to use flashcards, I find the best way to do it is virtual flashcards. This was a revelation, okay? I just Googled it. I was like, this has to exist. The site that I use is called Cram, but there are plenty of other websites that do like very similar things. What they are is you've got a website where you can type up your flashcards and then they'll have a corresponding app. So I put the app on, I'll put the app on my phone, and so I'll type up the flashcards here, and when I'm commuting to work, I'll just like flip through my flashcards. Or if I'm bored if I'm bored at the office or something, like at lunch or whatever, I'll just flip through some flashcards, and you don't have to walk around the big stack of physical flashcards that are just like falling all over the place. It's just wonderful. So yeah, virtual flashcards will change the way that you do flashcards if you're into flashcards. Nick says, can we deal with the jumper first? I think by jumper, you mean this thing. I got cold right as I sat down. I'm like, let's go put something warm on. And this is what came out. It's supposed to be, it's like 7 degrees outside right now. Celsius, not Fahrenheit. 7 degrees Celsius. Just like, not super warm, but warmer than cold. Anyway, Nick says, I did come here for the actuarying, by the way. That's all right, but I'm cool. Next tip. I have been studying for actuarial exams for so long, and they have so much material that by the time you go from A to Z, like you loop back to A and you're like, I know I've read this, but this all seems brand new. And you know how when you're reading it, you know, you take the time to try to understand what they're saying, you're like, what am I saying? And then you loop back to it again, you're like, all of that is gone, all of that is lost. What I think is super helpful and what I've been doing recently, now this depends on whether or not you own the textbook or not, but I just underline things and I write notes in the margin like it's nobody's business, because I try to, I've realized, I'm like, future Michelle is going to forget everything you've read. Let's try to make it easier on her. So I underline the important concepts. I leave myself notes in the margin. A lot of the time, if like a paragraph is talking about the pros and cons of whatever, I'll write in the margin like pros, cons, and then like the title. That way my brain can just sort of sift through the margins, and it makes rereading things so much faster. Now, even though I do this, when I loop back to it, I still go, I don't remember reading this, but then I go, but I see my handwriting, so I must have read this. So, if you can't write in your textbook because it belongs to someone else or the school or whatever, you can always use Post-its. I know some people like highlighting. I don't really love highlighting because I find it very aggressive, like on the page, but I like underlining. That's just my little tip for you guys. Mr. J says, I'll be starting my actual science course in uni in the UK in September. What advice can you give me? Find friends to study with. This isn't on my list, but this is really what got me through my first semester of university. What we would do is we didn't start class before 10:15 any day. Like some days we started at 10:15, some days we started at 11:30. God, I miss university. That was really nice. That doesn't happen when I'm working full time now. But when I was in university, we would like show up around 9:30ish, and we had like a common meeting area, and we just get together and we would do assignments together, or we would study together, or we would review each other's work. And I found that was really helpful in keeping me on pace, because, you know, I'd see this person had already finished his assignment, and I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta stay on pace with them. I don't wanna fall behind. And so I was able to really excel, and I ended up doing really well that semester. It wasn't a hard semester because a lot of it was overlapping with stuff I had learned previously, but it was really, I I found that just having friends to pace yourself with and to stay motivated, or to keep yourself motivated, keep yourself on pace, that was really an awesome thing about university. And I don't know, I feel like I'm not a group studier usually. I'm not a people person, but I just enjoyed it. So that's my advice to you. Another piece of advice from my list of study tips is to make a formula sheet early and use your formula sheet. So this goes back to the open book studying, and this more applies to if you're doing like a more math sciencey exam. But what I like to do is make a formula sheet, then try to answer my mathy sciencey questions just using the formula sheet. And if I can't answer the questions with just the formula sheet, as I'm reading the solutions to the problem, I'll annotate my formula sheet with the additional information that I would have needed. And I find that that really, really helps, because then the next time that I come to a question, all I need is the formula sheet, and it helps me sort of build a process. And it helps my brain know, okay, this is where I'm looking, this is where I'm looking, and it makes a nice summary. So if you can make the formula sheet early on in the process and use it as you go, I find that's just super helpful for me. On a similar vein, another thing that's really helpful is if you're reading a text that has a ton of abbreviations, which for whatever reason, some authors just go out of their way to put a ton of random notation, like just drive us crazy. I have one text on my current exam, and this person is just like going out of their mind. It's like GBBOP, GEBOP, like they're just going out of their way to make a whole bunch of abbreviations. Take a sheet of paper, write them all down, and that way when you're rereading your text and you're mindlessly going out and you go, what does PHSF stand for? You can look at your sheet and be like, oh, it's policyholder supplied funds. I mean, that's not, it's just, I find that keeping stuff on the side just to help you learn, that way you're not searching for things, you know where everything is. I just find that really helpful. Nutella says, hello, Michello. Hello, Nutella. And Xiangyi says, hello, what advice do you have for self-studying CAS SOA exam 2 FM financial mathematics? I mean, for that particular exam, I didn't really self-study it because I had taken a course. But I think that there are probably some decent videos on how time value of money works just on YouTube. I would say look for that. I haven't really watched any, but there is a ton of information on time value of money. You need to understand, like, moving forward. 1 plus I moves you forward. V moves you back. An annuity is just a stream of payments. And I think for all of the preliminary exams, the key thing to know is do a lot of problems. There are a ton of problems available to do. There are a ton of study manuals available. Like, they're going to give you lots of problems. Do them. All of them. Or not, you don't have to do 100%, but like, just pounding it out and getting fast with it. Also, make sure you have a financial calculator and get used to using your financial calculator, because the more you do it, the more it's just going to become second nature. And now you can just be like, actually, FM, can you use a financial calculator for FM? Probably. I think so. I don't remember if you're allowed it. I need it for my current exam. It's fun. Deepesh says, hey, did you get any exemptions for exams? I got my VEs, but I didn't get any exemptions for any exams. So I wrote exam P, and then, no. First I wrote FM, P, MLC, MFE, C, 5, Module 1, Module 2, or CAS Module 1, Module 2, 6, 7, 8, and now I'm studying for 9. That's my life. That's my life. Zaggy says yes, and Max Veku says yes. I don't know why we're saying yes, but I like it. Nick says, do you know many people who did a first degree in another subject and did a 1-year postgrad to get into being an actuary. Do you really need a 3 or 4-year undergrad degree? I think what you're asking is, did people start in something else and then switch into being an actuary? So in Quebec, where I live, there are a bunch of schools, like 4 schools that offer actuarial degrees. And so we tend to, in Quebec, people who get into, who become actuaries tend to have come from schools that offered actuarial degrees. So there aren't that many who haven't. I have one coworker who did a bachelor degree in the United States and then came back and did a second bachelor degree in actuarial math in Quebec, and now she's working at my company. But other than that, I don't know of many people who did a first degree in something else and then switched. Do you really need a 3 or 4-year undergrad degree? I've made videos about how I don't really believe in the university process right now. I feel like you're paying a lot of money for not a lot of education. But as far as, do I need it? Like, to be able, at my company, to be able to be an actuary, like, the requirement is you need a university degree, and to be able to be on the right or on the same salary scale as the rest of the actuaries, I needed a degree. So do I find that my degree made me better, smarter? Not really. Do I find that I needed my degree for my job? I mean, I needed my degree to get the job. So it's a sticky situation. Another study tip that I should have drawn something out, but I didn't bother. But there's a picture on my Instagram. I do my studying in 2 phases, and I use 2 different types of study trackers for my different phases of studying. So phase 1 is really iterative studying. So what I do is, on a study tracker, on the side, I'll list all the texts or all the chapters that I have to read, and then across the top, I'll list all the different iterations that I'm going to be doing. So first, I'm going to read my summaries, and then next, I'm going to read the source material, and then the next one, I'm going to do problems, and then I'm going to make my own formula sheets, and then I'm going to make my own flashcards and whatever, different iterations. And then I just check it off. So for chapter 1, I made my flashcards, and then chapter 2, I made my flashcards. And so that's how I do it. That's phase 1 is really just iterations. First iteration, read. Second iteration, read. Third iteration, read. Whatever. Just track my iterations. My second phase trackers are for my revision phase, and that's when I just want to make sure that I'm touching all the material as many times as I can before the end of my exam, or before the exam date. So usually for an actuarial exam, or for my upper level actuarial exams, I'll give myself a month of this. And so there I'll have list out all the texts or chapters or whatever that it is that I need to read. And then on the top, I'll put the dates. And then I'll give myself a little index that says green means reading the study manual, and blue means doing problems for this text and whatever. And then I'll just mark it off so that I can visually see, on this day I read this, this, and this. And on this day I read this, this, and this. And on this day I read this, this, and this. And that way, visually I can see which days I was slacking, and it kind of makes me feel bad, be like, oh no, tomorrow I gotta do more because I didn't do as much today. And also what it ends up happening is you can see which ones you haven't done as recently. You're like, ugh, I haven't read this in 6 days. Okay, I'll read this, and it helps me skim everything a lot more, because I find that in the month before, you really just need to read the material over and over and over, in addition to doing practice exams and doing problems, just reading your material over and over and over again. I find that incredibly helpful. Mr. J says, what salary should I expect when I've completed uni? I will have 8 exam exemptions. You said you were in the UK, and I have absolutely no idea what a salary would be in the UK. Absolutely none. Swifty says, hi. And Deepesh says, what would you suggest? 3-year BS Is that a Bachelor of Science? And study for an exam or 4-year BS and exams? Is there, I'm confused by your question because I don't really understand it. If BS is a Bachelor of Science, which I think is what you're referring to, I did a 3-year Bachelor of Science, but that's because in Quebec, they're all offered as 3-year degrees, and they don't offer it as a 4-year degree. I'm sorry, I just don't really feel it depends on where you live and what people are expected to get. So in Quebec, what we have is a system called Cégep, and it's between high school and university. It's a 2-year pre-university program between high school and university, and so we finish high school in grade 11, and then grade 12 and 13 are in Cégep, and then we do a 3-year university program as opposed to other places where they finish in grade 12 and then they do 4 years of university. Socom Bond says, I'm majoring in math. Should I transfer to a school with an actuarial program? Unlikely. I mean, like, if it's easy for you and you don't like your current program, sure, but I wouldn't bother going through the hassle. Unless, like, okay, don't let me discourage you. If that's your dream, do it. But if you're saying, like, will this help my life significantly? Meh. I mean, there's a lot of just learning on the job. I have an actuarial math degree, and I have learned more on the job than I learned in my degree, I think. Deepesh says, was it 90 credits? Yeah, my degree was a 90 credit degree. FT Legend said, you look weird wearing that sweater in April. I look weird all the time. Did you watch yesterday's live stream? I was just pulling my hair in front of my face like a cool kid. I'm a cool kid. Lemon Tea says, Michelle, welcome to the party. Mr. J says, let's say in Canada, what kind of salary should I expect? Who is it that released a salary survey recently? I think DW Simpson offers one, but I think there's something called like actuarial salaries or something on the internet. You can look it up. They would be much better versed in what a starting salary for an actuary is than I would. Lemon Tea says it's way too early to wear a Christmas jumper. Incorrect. It's too late. We're not back at Christmas. It's like I was just cold and it was just like the first one in my closet. So I'm fun. Socom Bond says, it's cheaper where I'm at. I was just wondering if it was worth it. Like, you're referring to switching degrees. Probably. I mean, like, probably not. I wouldn't bother. Socom Bond says, how many tests should I take before asking for internships? At least one. I mean, like, you go for it and try your best with 0 if you want. Like, worst case, they say no, and at least they've seen that you've tried. I would say 1 or 2 is probably a good number before you get an internship. Ryan says, where's your Hanukkah sweater? I don't have a Hanukkah sweater because this is my only ugly Christmas sweater. I bought it because we have an ugly Christmas sweater day at work. So I bought it 2 years ago, and this is my every year ugly Christmas sweater. But we are in Passover prep mode at my house, and by we I mean my parents, because I'm studying / live streaming and being entirely unhelpful. But it's Passover. Starting Monday night. That's fun. FT Legend said, I had this interview like a month ago, and a week later they called me saying, you've been successful, but I've not been called into work for 3 weeks. Why do you think that is? What kind of a job is that? That seems weird. Why would they hire you but not tell you to work? I mean, unless, like, for me, I've always gotten jobs not for immediate work. Like, I always got jobs for internships to start in, like, a few months, or my summer job would start in the summer. So I don't think I've ever really had that experience of being like, I'm looking for work tomorrow. It's never happened to me. You should call them and be like, what up? Sup? Why? Why you don't call? I thought we were best friends. That's what I would say. I wouldn't call an employer and tell them that you thought they were best friends, but maybe you could. Socum says, how is Canada life? It's pretty wonderful. It was raining for like 4 days straight this week, and I don't know if we did, but they were saying on the radio that we were like probably gonna beat a record in terms of rainfall, but I don't know if we actually did. But right now it's sunny outside, and that's like you can see the sun shine on my arm. Ooh, look! It's like sunshiny. And then other than that, like, I don't know, it's supposed to be 22 degrees on Monday, which is really exciting. 22 degrees Celsius. I don't know. That's all I know about Canada is the weather. Ooh, in Montreal we're supposed to get a Ferris wheel. But a gondola type Ferris wheel, like one of those with like air conditioned and heated cabins, Ferris wheel type things in the old port. So if you want to come visit Montreal, now you know where to go. The Ferris wheel. It's supposed to open in June, I think. And people were worried, but it's privately funded, so it's not taxpayer money, so I'm not paying for it. So that's cool, because there are lots of people who are annoyed with Montreal and how they've been spending taxpayer money lately. But that doesn't really matter for this live stream, because y'all don't care. FT Legend said, they said they're doing checks. Is it supposed to take that long? Maybe they're just slow. I don't know. You can always call and follow up. Deepesh says, your thought on GPA versus exams. I think that your GPA is probably correlated with exams in that someone who has a higher GPA is probably more likely to pass exams, but it's definitely not a one-to-one correlation. In terms of how an employer would look at it, I have no idea. I mean, it really depends. It would really depend person to person, for sure. Like, for me, I would say they balance each other out. Some people might want someone with fewer exams because they can pay you less. Depends on what they're looking for. FT Legend says, is it true in Canada milk comes in bags? In my house, we've never bought bagged milk. We always buy milk in cartons. But yes, they do sell bagged milk. And you get like a little jug thing and you cut the end of the bagged milk. It's not weird. Nick says, would you mind paying for it? What are we talking about? So there's a lag between when I speak and when I can see your comments, and so I don't remember what we're paying for right now. What am I paying for? Something wonderful, I guess. Ryan says, you can't change your GPA, but you can always pass more exams. This is true. If you mess up your GPA royally in your first semester, it's much harder. It's much harder to bring it up. Now, I don't know if my university is still like this, but my university was giving out A+ like candy, and it was really upsetting to me because it's like, we're not paying for A's. We're paying for education, and an A should be a byproduct of demonstrating that we've gained that education. So I was not happy with my university. But for like my first year of university, I had a 4.3 GPA. Yeah, I'm that person. Oh, Nick says the Ferris wheel. Would I mind paying for a Ferris wheel? Like, paying to go on it, I think, is perfectly valid. We recently spent, like, how much money? I can't remember how much money, but like many millions of dollars to like light up our bridge, and many millions of dollars to buy, I can't remember what the material is, but like statues of tree trunks to put on the mountain so people could sit on. And you know what they don't spend money on? Filling the potholes. And our streets are so terrible. Like you could lose a child in our potholes. Just like, where'd they go? Boop, fell in a pothole. It's terrible because it gets hot and cold, and so what happens is it snows and the snow gets into it and then it melts or like the snow will melt, and so it'll get into the cracks, and then it freezes, and frozen water expands, and then it melts and freezes, it melts and freezes, and then you end up with these cracks, and then they patch some of it, but not fast enough, and it's terrible, and yeah. Ryan says, you should have told me they give A+ like candy. Maybe I would have gone there instead. Oh no, a better education from a not better school. A better education is much more valuable than a GPA full of A+. Cameron says, is it important for employers that an entry-level actuarial employee has an actuarial quant math degree, or just SOA exams would be enough to land an entry position? That really depends employer to employer. I couldn't, like, you never know what someone's looking for. At my work, most, if not everyone, has an actuarial degree, but there are places, like in the United States, I don't think there are as many universities that offer an actuarial degree, so they definitely can't be looking for that. So I don't know. Nick says, potholes, same in the UK. Yeah, it's the worst. It's the worst. Deepesh says, I have yet to taste some A+ candies. Listen, it's, I know I have, like, the most unrelatable of unrelatable problems when I complain about all my A+. But, yeah. Yeah. Ryan said, I almost said that your school is better. I didn't go to your school. All I know about your school is that you have to do, their co-op program has to do like 7,000 co-ops, and so you graduate when you're like 400 years old. Burn. No, I'm kidding. I don't know much about it. But what I do know is that they probably produce some top quality candidates with lots of co-op experience. So that's good. Congratulations. Yeah. I don't know. Would I go back to university? Not anytime soon. Ryan says, I have to do 6. Yeah, 6 co-ops seems like so many co-ops. I did 4, and my first one was non-actuarial, and then I did one at the company that I work for now in Montreal, one in health and benefits consulting, and then one at the company that I work for now, but in Toronto. Because I'm fun. FT Legend said, what was the subject you were best at in high school? For me, it was English literature. I hated it, but I was good at it. I was always pretty good at the math, science, like physics kind of stuff. I was pretty decent at that. For sure. Whoa, the sun is changing. I love these stripes. I feel like I should just paint myself with stripes. Ryan says, remember we don't have CJEP. I know you don't have CJEP, but it's still a ton of work. But at least getting paid. I love doing this. Like, every time I can add this moment to my list, add this motion to my videos. My words are really good. My words are really good. Every time I do this in one of my videos, it amuses me. Carry on. Mr. J said, what happened to your list? I finished my list. Sorry. It wasn't that many things. I spoke about my list for like 10 minutes, and now we're just chatting. I'm sorry. Cameron said, I'm asking because I currently have corporate finance, investment experience, and CFA, FRM. I have the first 3 prelim exams. What are the chances of getting an entry-level job? So without knowing anything about your personality, how qualified you are as a person, or what market you're looking in, I would say you sound like a baller. I would say go for it and apply. And I haven't applied for a job since 2012, so I know nothing about applying for jobs. But what I do know is, like, what happens in the job search market is there are lots of different, like, cutoff points. So if you're sending out, like, 100 resumes and you're not getting any interviews, what happens is you've got to look at your resume and say, okay, I should take this resume to like a professional resume reviewer person, get a nice professional template, because something about my resume is not resonating with people. If you're getting interviews and then not getting the job, you gotta say, okay, something about my interview ability is going awry. And so you gotta, go to someone, a career counselor, whatever, and be like, listen, let's just do some mock interviews and practice my speech. And, yeah, those are the two main, like, cutoff points that I see is my resume good? Are my interview skills good? And if you can say yes to both of those questions, then, like, you should be fine in getting a job, hopefully. An important thing to remember also when applying for a job is the question of fit. And you might just be like, I want a job, but you might not be the right fit for that company, and they might feel that you're not the right fit. And no matter what you do, if you don't get along well with the interviewer, if you don't fit in with the vibe of the company, that's not a negative on you. That's just, like, sometimes this happens. I don't know. And then, as I've mentioned many a time, I'm a big believer in, like, fate and the universe and the fact that the world is going to guide you where you're supposed to go. And I feel like every time I didn't get a job, that was the world telling me, Michelle, that's not where you're supposed to go right now. You're supposed to go somewhere else. We have bigger, better plans for you. And thus far, my life is pretty ballin'. Like you can see, I'm wearing this in April. So, I mean, my life is pretty put together. We can all tell. I haven't even asked you guys to thumbs up this video yet. So we're gonna take this moment right now to say that's a thumbs up moment. Thumbs up the video. Oh my gosh. There's one of my live stream, or what video was it? I can't remember, but I said to thumbs up. I told people to thumbs it up like many a time in the video, and then I got a lot of thumbs down, and I think it was because I asked people to thumbs it up too many times. It's okay. Mr. J says, someone on a YouTube actuarial channel said you are going to uni to study and not to make friends. How far do you agree to this? What? Why would they say you're going to university to study and not to make friends? Oh my god. I disagree. I disagree with that. Because I think that... So, for me, I've already told you that I'm that obnoxious person who gets good grades and doesn't have to study very hard. But for me, what I always said is, I'm not a very social person, as can be seen by me sitting around talking to a camera instead of being out with friends or whatever. I'm not a very social person, but I can pass a test just fine. And for me, it's less important to prove to anyone, to the world, to myself, that I can pass a test. And it's more important for me to prove that I can make friends and develop social skills. And I think that social skills are so important in the workforce, because once you have a job, no one is going to care. No one is going to care if you got an A or a B or a C on that one midterm. But you know what they're going to care about? They're going to care if you are nice to them. They're going to care. Listen, I'm going to be honest. It took me a hot moment to realize that your small talk matters. Like, I hate small talk. I am in and out, but now I do it all the time. What you have to do, listen, this is the trick. If you're antisocial like me, I'm like, I don't know. On Friday, you ask people what they're doing on the weekend, and on Monday, you ask them how whatever they mentioned went. It's like magic, okay? Because it makes people think, oh, she remembered. You know, if someone says, I'm going to a yoga class, on Monday you go, how was yoga? And people feel nice. It connects you. And, like, I remember during my first internship, I'd walk into my boss's office and start, like, asking him questions about work, and he'd be like, whoa, hi, how are you? Like, how was your day? How was your weekend? And I'd be like, oh, okay, we have to do these pleasantries. I was also very surprised in my first internship by the number of thank yous that I got from people. And then this really just reinforced a need in myself that when people do things for me at work, just say thank you. Like, it's so appreciated. At my current job, like, if I send off a nice email, like a well-written email, I'll get an email back from my boss when he's CC'd on the email being like, very well-written email, Michelle. Good job. I'm like, it's nice when you get appreciated. And I feel like some people are just naturally gifted at being social. I'm not. And so your ability to make friends and to network, that's key. Like, yeah, no, you shouldn't only be focusing on making friends, and yes, you should be studying, but you've got to make friends too, because having a network is really useful. For example, I have a video series on this channel called What Do Actuaries Actually Do? And I'm running out of things that I know about. Like, I have the general ideas. Like, I know people work in pensions, but I don't know what they actually do in pensions. So I'm gonna have to go out to my university friends and be like, hey, you know how you work in pensions? What do you do? Because I want to tell the internet about it. Like, imagine. Just imagine. No, like, it's really key to make friends. And rant. Makita says, hey, one second. How do you motivate yourself to study, especially when the weather is so nice outside? So for me, what I do is I motivate myself by having study trackers. I posted a picture of mine on Instagram if you're curious what it actually looks like, but visually having to check off what I've done I find helpful. Sometimes I'll also put it in a tracker, in a planner, and just be like, today I'm doing this and this and this and this. And I find the need to check things off is very helpful. Also, the knowledge that I've already paid for the exam helps. Also, the desire to pass helps. Also, an underlying feeling of guilt every time I'm not studying helps. But ultimately, there are a lot of days that I don't end up studying. Like, I just don't do anything. And I feel like you're allowed to take days and not study. And that's okay. But you can't make every day a not study day. So the days where you are studying, you kick butt. And the days where you need to take a day off and go for a walk or take a nap. Like, I had my study day on Thursday. I went for a massage in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I passed out for 2.5 hours, like, napping. It was terrible. Like, it wasn't terrible, but, like, I shouldn't have napped for that long. I studied before the massage, between the massage and then after the naps. Like, I still got in a decent day of studying, but, like, sometimes you just gotta not study and just listen to your body and chill out. It's okay. Nasser says, hi, I'm writing my first actuarial exam FM next week. Any advice? No? But you can do it. I believe in you. Go for gold. Go for gold. I know I put advice in the title of this video. That was a lie. I have no advice. Only random nonsense. FT Legend said, do you think it's better to work for someone or work for yourself? My uncle and cousin brought a big piece of land and turned it into a car park, and the estimate is they'll make $2,000 a day. It depends on who you are as a person. So your earning capacity is unlimited when you're an entrepreneur, because if your company grows, you can just keep raking in the profits, and you can grow your company and hire employees and expand out and franchise and whatever. Like, you can grow it. But I don't have an entrepreneurial bone in my body. Maybe I do, but I don't think they're there. Maybe they are. Who knows? Not me. So for me, I like the riskless salary of working for an employer. Now, obviously, I can get fired. That's a thing that might happen. And chances are in my lifetime I will end up getting fired, laid off, whatever, for whatever reason. It happens to people, okay? But I like knowing that every 2 weeks they're depositing dollars in my bank account, and I don't have to worry about finding new clients or what happens if times turn or whatever. Like, there's a huge upside potential to being an entrepreneur, but also the huge potential to not make money and to fail. So it's really just a question of how risk-seeking are you? I don't know. It's all on you. It's all on you. Cameron says, thanks for the motivational speech. All right, it's been 45 minutes. I think that's been long enough. If you like this video, thumbs. Subscribe to see more. I'm making live streams every day in April. For example, today. For example, yesterday. For example, tomorrow. You guys are awesome. I love you. Thank you for calling. All right. Do you like my bedroom? It's kind of a mess, but we're just moving quickly. Everyone's getting it dizzy. Okay. Bye.